Alright guys, this is NinjaGaijin. On today's episode, I just want to cover a question that I'm asked a lot actually here in Japan, and that is, why Japan? You know, why did I want to come to Japan? Why did I want to move to Japan? So I just want to go over basically why I came, and yeah, let's talk about it. So my first exposure to Japanese culture was actually back when I was in elementary school. I remember my brother's friend came over and we were playing Mario Kart back on the N64, and at one point it was almost 5 p.m. and he said he had to go back to watch his TV show. So we're like, well, what was the TV show? And he's like, oh, it's this cartoon, it's a Japanese cartoon. And at the time, you know, I didn't have any exposure at all to Japanese culture, Japanese TV show, whatever. So we were like, all right, we'll just watch it here. He turns it on, ends up being Dragon Ball Z. So from there, I got really into Dragon Ball. You know, I'm sure if you know the series, pretty much everyone at some point in their life has done the whole Kamehameha thing. So that was my initial exposure. Then in junior high school and high school, I was really into anime. I watched all different types of anime, you know, like Ghibli, Miyazaki, you know, One Piece, Hajime no Ippo, you know, you name it, I watched them all, or almost all of them, really. And then during my, I think I was in 10th grade. Yeah, that sounds about right. When I was in high school, 10th grade, I was watching this one Japanese movie, and they were doing some type of fighting with a bamboo sword. It looked really interesting. At the time, I had an interest in martial arts. I did a little bit of like karate and stuff like that. Nothing really stuck or sticked really, but I was really fascinated with this bamboo sword. So I looked online, and sure enough, the martial arts was kendo. So then I began feverishly looking around for dojos or places that I can actually do it, right? And it seemed to be much harder to find than I thought. Eventually found a place about 45 minutes away from my house. I went and did that every day. I'm sorry, not every day, every week for about a year and a half. And then I started fading out of it a little bit because the transit time was too long and just making excuses, really. Then fast forward to college. My major was business administration with a concentration in international business, and it's a pretty mouthful. It's a big mouthful, right? But anyways, for that major, I needed to have studied some type of foreign language. And my university was offering Japanese, so I thought of it as a great time to, you know, learn Japanese. So I did Japanese for 2 years, and you know, I really wanted to try living in Japan, and that was my goal. I wanted to see how life was going to be here, and at first I began to explore study abroad. Study abroad programs. And I'm sure if you're in college right now, you might be considering studying abroad in some foreign country, maybe even Japan. The reason why I ended up not doing that was for multiple reasons. Just to give you a quick rundown, one of the reasons was because it was going to delay my graduation. I had already finished almost all my elective classes, so had I gone to Japan, my graduation would have been delayed by a year. And I would have only been able to take one class that could fill something. It was like pottery or something like that. And even then, I still thought about it. But what was the real deterrent not to go was that had I gone, they would have just placed me in some type of international school with other foreigners. And you know, that's not the experience I was looking for. They didn't have any homestay opportunities either, so I would have lived in dorm. So So it would have been expensive. I would have lived in dorm with other foreigners, and you know, my graduation would have been delayed. So that's not what I wanted. I wanted like the Japanese experience. You know, I wanted to really interact with the locals. I wanted to feel like I was part of something. So then I began to look for different programs, right? How can I work in Japan, right? Because if I want to live in Japan, I need some type of job. And you know, I'm sure if you've looked yourself, you know that over 90% of the jobs for foreigners in Japan are English teaching positions. I mean, which makes sense if you think about it, because any other job, if a Japanese person can do it, why would they go and outsource it and then have to deal with language barriers or language issues, right? So your only real, how can I say this, way you stand out really, or your special ability, is the fact that you would be a native English speaker, right? So I began looking at different types of English teaching programs, etc. And then I stumbled upon JET. I did that for 3 years. In the process, I met my wife, who is Japanese, and now I'm just living here in Japan. So that's basically, you know, my story on how I got to Japan and how I ended up staying here. Originally, of course, I had only planned to stay here for about a year, maybe 2 years, and then I wanted to go to Korea for a year or two, China for a year or two, and then use this experience to try and find a job. But I don't regret any decisions I've made so far. Living in Japan is awesome. I really like it here. And yeah, so if you are planning to move to Japan, or you want to do like a long-term holiday, working visa, etc., or you're doing it right now, you know, please feel free to comment, leave questions down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Alright guys, thanks again for watching. Bye.